You've hit level 60, and if you've completed your renown, you are now faced with 20 or 24 Paragon points. If you haven't completed your renown, make sure you get out there and do it. It is incredibly important. Where do you put those points? What glyphs do you take? Do you take damage, HP, or just straight damage reduction nodes? We're going to answer all of that and a lot more in this video. Paragon boards can be very daunting. We're going to make sure that by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to put a Paragon board together, why we do it a specific way, and where the glyphs are supposed to go. Now, if you're thinking about doing your own Paragon board, I would highly suggest not doing it in-game. There are a lot of different sites out there that will allow you to mess around with a Paragon board offline. If you go to refund your Paragon board here, and you refund everything, it's going to allow you to put your points back in, but then every single time that you make a mistake, you're going to have to redo it, redo the whole thing, or type and click all the way back. Now, there is a much better way to do that. If you come over here to Mobalytics, this is where I do all of my builds. My profile will be in the description of this video if you want to check out any of the builds. We've got some really fun barbarian builds. We're going to be doing this from the perspective of a barbarian, but all of this will apply to whatever class you're going to be playing on. Go into the build planner section on Mobalytics right over here in the corner. This is going to allow you to select whatever class that you're going to be running on. So we're going to be selecting Barbarian. Then you can come down to the Paragon board here. This will bring up a mock Paragon board. Now, the very first thing that we're going to cover is your starter board, because in your starter board, you do not want to do this. This is not the correct way to fill out a board, and for anybody that's been playing for a little while, that seems like common sense, but if you're just getting started and you've never played an ARPG before, and this is the first time that you've seen anything like this, you might assume, okay, I'm getting all these points, we're going to fill out all the board, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way that this goes. So that's why we're covering it here. Now, if you were in-game and you've realized that you've done all of this, you now have to reset everything. What you can do when you're on this here is you can just click on the reset board. It takes all of the points out. Really, really super handy. What I really like about doing this is that I know that I can actually select any glyph that I want. I can set the max level to whatever glyph level I want it to be at, and then you put the glyph into the board. It's now going to highlight all of the nodes that are going to activate your glyph. If you look right here where the requirements are within the radius is going to change at different parts of the board. If we don't match that 40 strength, which is going to be any of these nodes here, that's not going to be active, and we won't get the benefits of having that glyph on. That's why if you want to change your glyph level here, so let's take ambidextrous here, and let's make it a level 15. And we're going to select this here. Now you see the radius here? This is your new radius. Your glyphs are going to have different breakpoints. Now the first radius is going to be level 1. That's going to be your very starter. That one is what we put in. As soon as we get the glyphs, it looks like this. Then when we go up, we're going to go up to level 15. Level 15 is going to give you your first increase. And then when we get to level 46 and we make our glyph legendary, that is the final radius, and that's what you're going to be heading for. You want to go straight to level 46 with your glyphs, because that's going to be the most important breakpoint. So using this planner is going to allow you to plan ahead where you want to go and what you want to do. Now we can also skip ahead and we can select another board without having to build to that board. For anybody that is new to Paragon boards, when you're actually in-game and you're building, in order to get to the next boards, you have to make sure that you path all the way up to the next board. You don't have to unlock the glyph yet. You just have to make sure you path all the way there, and that will unlock the board for you. Then we're going to select our next board. The boards don't have to stay like this. So if you're following along with a planner and you see a board that doesn't look like anything like the one that you see in-game, you can come down here and then you can rotate the board. Rotating the board is going to change around the way that you path to glyphs, or to legendary nodes, or to some of the rare nodes that are inside the board. So one of the huge benefits of running this, and we were talking about making a mistake in-game. We put out a whole bunch of these planners here. We build a whole entire board. We are running. We have everything in, and all of a sudden we realize, oh my gosh, I put the wrong board here. What you can then do is you can go to switch board, and then you can swap the different boards around, and it'll just replace that one board, which is not a function that they have in-game. So this makes planning ahead much easier. If you're going to start getting into theory crafting, using a planner is absolutely 100% necessary, or you're going to click so many times in the board. Now, when you're in-game, a couple of the things that we're going to look at in this video is going to be your damage reduction node. It's going to be looking at your damage nodes, and it's also going to be looking at your HP nodes. They're all going to be super important. You can actually use this keyword search up here, and then you can select the ones that you want to see. So if you only want to see, let's say, bludgeoning, then you can select that. If you only want to see critical strike, you can select that. This is going to be very good in-game if you're going to be searching for the nodes that you want to put in when you're following along with a planner. So back into the planner here. We have now put in the ambidextrous glyph. This requires strength in order to activate it. I only have 25 out of 40 strength. So I need to ask myself, where is the most efficient way to path this so that I make sure that I unlock the most amount of strength without spending the most amount of points? When you're building a Paragon board, especially in the very beginning of your game, you don't want to spend all of the points possible. If you're just getting started, you don't want your boards to look like this. And the reason is you're going to run out of points before you get all of the important nodes if you follow along with every single strength node that's going to be in the board. You want to go very, very minimal, just path to your glyphs, to your legendary nodes. Then you're going to branch out into your damage reduction nodes, your life, your resistances, and then your armor, depending on what your character needs. So we're going to take all these points back out here, and then we're going to start by going into just activating this glyph. So right now I'm at 45, so I'm a little over. So if I take this out, I'm now at 40 out of 40, and I'm perfectly fine. This is exactly where I want to be. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go up into the next board. Now I know that I want this here, but let's say that I want to put this on the side. We're going to rotate my board just a little bit. Now I want to look at the rare nodes. Are these rare nodes that I want to get to first, or are these nodes that I want to get to first? Now this one has max life. This one also has max life. This one has 4% max life. This one has 4% max life. So they're both the same, which is perfect. The one really important part about this board and the way that you want to rotate it is this is going to be damage reduction. Damage reduction is incredibly important, especially in the early stages of the game. What you want to actually do for this board to make it the most viable is you're going to rotate down here. That is going to put our damage reduction nodes very close. It's going to give us direct pathing to the legendary node, and then we can path right over into the glyph. Now for this one here, let's say that I'm going to be running Dominate. It shows where the highlighted ones are. So now I can build my pathing up. We can go straight over to these damage reduction nodes if that's my most important stat here. We're going to go straight over the damage reduction nodes. We're going to avoid the healing received nodes. We don't really need those, especially in the way that this game is laid out. We can now path into your legendary node. And as I come down here, we can hit the willpower. We can come down around. Now I know that I'm going to have to move into this board. So what's going to be the most efficient way to do this? I know that I need to get 3 more nodes. So if we path over here and we come around, we take 1 willpower node on the way, and then we're going to just continue pathing. And we've now unlocked the next board. We have your legendary node, our glyph is unlocked, we've got some damage reduction, and we have also made it to the next board without spending too many points. So as you're pathing between boards, a couple of things that you want to look for. Now I went across the top here because I was just going in a straight line. But what I didn't take was the 2 strength nodes that were down here. That's actually going to be a much better pathing than if you were to go along the top. That's going to be different for every class because every class has its own main stat. So you want to go into the spots that have the main stat as you're pathing from node to node. Now, if you do need something else to hit certain stat points, it is okay to take those. But as you're going from board to board, find the path with the most main stats that you have for your class, and that'll be the optimal way to go from one place to another. Now, along the way, keep in mind, it's just a couple points right here, right, to get some additional maximum life. Maximum life is incredibly important. I have a whole video on making sure you stay alive. That is going to be in the video. You guys can check it out right here. So just make sure that that is something that you do. Keep in mind where the life is. Life's important. Next board here, we want to look at the pathing here. So let's say that we're running the Flawless Technique. I don't really need the Flawless Technique board because that board really isn't used in too many. So what I do want to run is I definitely want to run the Carnage board. So we're going to look at the pathing here. Again, we want to make sure that we're going to be going into the right directions. Do I need the cold resistances? Probably not. So I want to rotate this board, and we want to look at the way that we're going to be rotating the board. We're going to go into the damage while berserking nodes, because for barbarians, that's incredibly important. And we'll talk about why you're going to take something like a damage while berserking and not take your straight damage nodes right away. So that's how you're going to unlock your boards. That's how you're going to build your boards. Now we could go through and fill out the whole rest of this, but what we're focusing on is how you're going to select the nodes, not exactly just building a board. That is something that if you want to learn how to build a board, you can always stop by the live stream or hop into Discord with us. The Discord icon is going to be in the description of this video. You click on that, join Discord. There is a whole host of information and a lot of really great people there if you wanted to hop in with us. Now, damage is amazing, but you can't do damage if you're dead. While you're building a board, if you go into any of the builds that I've put together, and we'll go into the Ruptured Summoner build. This is the strongest hitting barbarian build out there. When you look at the Paragon board, for any of the variants that I have along the top here, I only have 215 points spent. If I maximize this and we go through and we look, I have actually taken every single life node, all of the damage reduction nodes, all of the life nodes here. If I needed armor, you go into armor then, and then you're also going to get your resistances from your board. I've gone through and I've just unlocked every single glyph. I have barely put anything extra into the glyphs. So this is how you want to build your boards first. You build them out completely into something that is going to just unlock your legendary nodes, just unlock your glyphs, and then start taking every single life, every single resistance, and every single armor until you're capped on them. Once you start gaining more, you're going to be able to start pulling things out and then putting them into offensive stats. How that's going to actually work is if you look here and you go back into the game, intelligence is going to give you resistance to all. Now, we're not gaining a lot because our main stat isn't intelligence. We're going to actually have a lot more armor on a barbarian, but each one is going to do different things. Intelligence will give you resistances. This will give you resource generation, overpower damage, receiving healed, and then dexterity will give you critical strike chance and dodge chance. So as you get more and more points in your Paragon board, you're going to gain more and more stats here. So let's say we're just under the 1,000 cap for armor. We go and we find an armor node because we want to make sure that we go over cap. We put 1 point into the armor node that's going to be down here, and then we're just over. Now we add a bunch more strength in. We don't need that armor point because we're over armor cap. We're going to remove that, and then we start going into your offensive abilities. Now, we talked about the damage while berserking node. Why is that super important for the barbarian, and where am I going to see that taking effect? There are a lot of nodes inside of the board that are going to be just straight damage. Now, this is 20% damage, but really not something that I'm very interested in taking. Inside of the Blood Rage node, we are going to get this legendary here. Your damage is going to be increased by 10% of your damage while berserking bonus up to a maximum of 45%. That means that it's going to take 10% of whatever our damage while berserking bonus is, just straight additive damage. Now, if we come back into the game here, you can go to your stat line and you scroll down here. You're going to get 10% of this number. Now you can see I'm just a little bit shy because 10% of 450 is going to be 45%. So we're now actually taking straight damage while berserking, and it's getting converted into a multiplier. Those multipliers are what you want to stack. Anything that has a plus in front of it, you do need it, but you want to make sure you have as many X's, which is going to be your legendary nodes here, as possible. So now we know that we want to go into your damage while berserking nodes. So now we see these here. This is where planning ahead is coming into play. I know I need that board, so I'm going to path through my damage while berserking nodes to make sure that I unlock that. Now, there are a lot of different other boards that are going to do that. So this is where you're going to have to start reading through your class, reading through your legendary nodes. If I was to swap boards here and I was to go into the Force of Nature board, if you look here, this is going to take 40% of my damage first close bonus and give me a 200% multiplier. We're taking flat damage, just straight damage that's additive, and we're turning it into a multiplier. So inside of this board here, we actually do have some damage to close nodes. These are really important for this in order to unlock those legendary nodes and gain more multipliers. Now, we won't turn this into a how damage works and a what damage is, but I do want to make sure that we stress, if you take anything that just says straight damage, this will make your attack power spike. Do not look at your attack power. Your attack power is not a good indicator of what is going to make your character strong. You can take every single damage node inside this Paragon board, watch your attack power shoot up, but if you don't take any damage while berserking, or you don't take any damage to close, you're going to do a lot less damage. So please ignore your attack power as you're building your Paragon board. Don't put a node in and then go and look at your attack power and see if it went up or down. Learn where your multipliers are. So in this one here, our multipliers that we're going to be building into are your Blood Rage node, and then it's also going to be inside of your Force of Nature board. So each class is going to have different things that are going to be like this. You're going to have to just do a little bit of research, read through the legendary nodes. Anywhere that it says it's going to give you a multiplier when you take a certain stat and you get a certain percent of that, you're going to look for those stats inside of your Paragon board. And this is going to be your rare nodes. Each rare node, as you can see right here, this requires your dexterity. So if we come back into the game and we go into the Paragon board, if we look at the very first couple nodes, the rare nodes, these are all activated. They have double stats. If you hit the dexterity bonus, that's going to be right here, you gain an additional 20% damage. Now, you saw the requirements here. This is 190 dexterity. As we come up, this is 265 dexterity. We're now increasing our dexterity amount. As we go, this one here is 1500 strength. Each board that you go out, the further from the start board, that's going to increase the amount that you're going to need. Now, if you look here, I'm actually missing some life because I don't have all of the willpower that is necessary to unlock this board. And the further out you go, the more that you're going to be missing. I'm missing over 100 willpower in order to unlock this, which if I had that unlocked, I actually would be maxed out here, but I'm not because I don't have enough of the other stats. There are a lot of different ways to do that, but that's where your pathing is going to come into play. Now, if for me, this is an important node. So if I go and I rebuild this node because I don't want to put on something like a Yen's Blessing here, where Yen's Blessing gives me all stats, I put Yen's Blessing on, we go back into the board, and now we look, and now it's activated. So I have enough willpower, and I now have capped this out. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. So most of the time and most of the builds, I do run an all stat on any of my gear, so I don't have to worry about this. But if running all stats is something you do not want to do, then you're going to go back into your planner, and then instead of having the Force of Nature board here, you're going to come back over to this one right here, and then you're going to just swap the boards, and you're going to put it in number 2. Now, we have unlocked those nodes that are super important to us, so read through your legendary nodes. If it is something like vulnerable damage where you really don't need it because it doesn't actually do anything that gets multiplied, you swap these boards here to the end, and then you bring the important ones closer to the front. So now we know how to build a board. We know what nodes to select, we know which way to go, we know where to build for your legendary nodes and your glyphs. How do you choose the glyphs? Most of the time, there's very easy ways to tell. We're going to take your Rumble board, for example. When I look at Rumble, for every 5 strength, you're going to increase your Earthquake's damage. This actually goes up to almost 1,400 damage. We go into the game and we look here. This one right here, as I've been building into it, we're up to 1,281. It's a lot of additive damage. Now, we do want multipliers, but all of those multipliers are also going to increase by the additive damage that we have. So I know that I want to maximize the amount that I can get out of this glyph. This glyph runs off strength. The more strength I have, the more damage I get from it. If you look at the top here, this is how much strength is going to be inside of the radius, not in the board itself, but inside of the radius of the glyph. Each one is going to be different. Some of them go all the way down to 105. Some of them go all the way up to 115. We're at 95 here. 95 is not where you want to put this glyph. So we want to make sure that we're looking at what is going to fit in best into that board in terms of the stats that it needs. Now, if we look here, if we look at something like Revenge, Revenge grants your bonus to all of your rare nodes within range. You only have to activate the 5 out of 5 for your willpower. You don't have to go any more than that, and any more willpower than that doesn't give you any extra stats. So now I know I don't need the 95 strength because that's a very low board. Most of my main stats are going to be strength, so I want to save all of the really high strength boards for my other glyphs. So I'm going to take the 95 one, and I'm going to put in the willpower node here because we have 79 willpower. That means my options for pathing are going to be much higher. It's going to be a lot easier to unlock the glyph. A very important part about this glyph. Now we're increasing our rare nodes, and we talked about how important it was to have your damage versus close. That is really important when we come into the game because we have 200%, we're maxed. If I was to put another glyph into this socket here, and we put something like Crusher here, we are now way under cap. Why are we way under cap? When we put our Revenge back into this, Revenge is increasing the rare nodes. Now that rare node happens to be your damage versus close. We're getting 145% damage versus close because we made the conscious choice to put Revenge inside of this board. Every class is going to have things like this that they're going to do specific things based on what the glyph is. You're going to look through your board. I wouldn't want to put this into my starter board here because I don't really gain anything from the damage versus elites, and I don't gain anything from the damage. So increasing those with a glyph like the Revenge glyph, where I really could take advantage of this extra stat, wouldn't make any sense. So as you plan ahead, think about where your glyphs are going to go. You want to put your most important glyphs in the right spot in order to get it going. Now, you do not have to follow builds, but I do highly suggest looking at how builds are built, looking at where glyphs go. When I build a Paragon board, most of the time, the same glyphs are going to go into the same boards for multiple builds because that's the best place to put them. So look around. Explore, see what people are doing, do a little bit of research, then go out there and then theory craft your own builds. It's a lot of fun to do. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and this is going to help. I know it's a little bit of a long one, but share it with your friends if you think that they're going to find this very interesting or helpful. Thank you for watching, everybody. I'm live every night. I'd love it if you stopped by, said hi, theory crafted with me. Catch you on the clip side.